I'm running. Sorry, excuse me.
You've seen this before.
How do I start? What's happening here? Hi guys. So that's going to be for Q&A, so we can keep it. So I want to thank everybody to coming to Serverless Toronto user group meetup. We have a really, really special meetup tonight because Smashing Conf is coming to town. And we are lucky to have Timira from Cloudinary as official sponsor of the conference that's starting tomorrow. And then Phil is from company Twilio. He's going to be talking at the conference and talking tonight. You don't have to pay anything for tonight's talk. So it's buckle up, you're into really good treat. I also want to thank Cloudinary. This is the third time they are supporting our meetups, and like nobody can represent the company as good as the people who work there. So she's the developer advocate. She's going to tell you what they're about correctly, not like me last time. And then people are wondering like we are serverless developers. How come suddenly serverless developers are talking to front-end conference UX guy? Why are we inviting people like from startups? And you remember last time, a few months ago, we had Amazon talking about supporting startups and government funds. So it's really about serverless, not technology, but serverless mindset, where kind of the way we try to develop is to get the products built faster. So you can kind of see if MVP is working, does it make sense or not? And also importance of the good front ends and alternative front ends like the voice and the chatbots that Phil is going to be talking about. So this slide, this logo is really from the lean product group from California, from the Dan Olson and Marty Sigan from Intuit. And like when I saw it, it was so mythical. Suddenly I had clarity why we are doing what we are doing. And so it's not just about that. It's about the front ends, making software usable, and the products meaningful and usable. And now I want to give you Mike to introduce yourself. Start with the first row.
It's going around.
Okay, all right. So I sent over my, I'm in the light. Okay, there we are. So I sent over my slides about our Media Developer Experts program, which I'm going to talk to you about. But first, I need to introduce, for those of you who don't know about Cloudinary, I need to introduce ourselves to you. So Cloudinary is what we like to call a digital asset management platform, right? So that is a lot of things, right? But it's mainly what it implies, which is we manage your digital assets, so images and videos. We also manage audio as well. So everything from the actual hosting of the assets to the delivery. We also have cool features that allow you to manipulate the assets in real time from the back end. So we like to call the manipulations transformations. So everything from overlay to let's say if you have background removal. So like there's like Photoshop-like capabilities in real time from the back end. So I like to call us a back end as a service. And yeah, that's a little bit about Cloudinary. And then you can feel free to ask me questions as we go. So our Media Developer Experts program. So a while back, I was at a conference and I was leaving the conference a little bit early, and my manager was like, oh man, we really want to take advantage of the community. Like there's other things going on in the space. And I'm like, I have to leave. And he's like, do you know anyone else who may be familiar with Cloudinary or just really heavy in, media, have heavy interest or expertise in media? And I'm like, I don't think we do, not in this, not in this region. And I said, why don't we have an ambassador-like program or developer program? And he said, that's actually a great idea. So you do it. So I launched the Media Developer Experts program. And basically, these are people who are media heavy focused developers. So anything to do with, it could be, media is so broad, it could be front-end development, it could be anything involving delivery, it could be image optimization, it could be everything from just anything in that spectrum. So yeah, if you're interested in any of those things, you could be a media developer expert. So a little bit about the program. I have my clicker here. So what do we allow you to do? Basically, you know, everyone's heard about the Google developer experts and so on and so forth. We said, how can we offer something just as exclusive and just as elite, but how can we make it more of a benefit, right? Like, what do developers actually want? What is important? And one thing that we always emphasize, especially as a developer advocate, is a personal brand, right? So developers, you're only as good as what you produce, right? And it's important for you to, you know, maximize your voice, showcase what you know, and that way you're bringing the right opportunities your way, right? And you're increasing your value as you go. So Cloudinary, we're using all of our internal resources and our expertise to help you to build your brand, and just whatever it is that you're doing, amplify what you're doing. Also provide you with education on the Cloudinary platform. So you get the Cloudinary 101 basics, and then also everything that we do as far as, you know, we have a new product or feature, you'd get exclusive access to those features as well, and also tutorials on those things. Anything to keep you on your toes and really help to shape and mold you into more into that title of a media developer expert. So if you become a media developer expert, what do? Learn, build, and share. So everything that, you know, an evangelist or a developer would do, you know, as we can, anything we learn, we go ahead and we teach. We teach when we learn, and we learn and we teach. And we just encourage you to continue to build upon your skills and just be sharp on your expertise. Okay, so how can you become a media developer expert? Well, I'm going to give you the link, but I'll give you the link at the end to apply. But you might think, okay, I have, you know, a little more expertise in one area as opposed to the next, or you know what, I don't think that I'm a good, you know, I don't think that I have been very vocal about my skill sets. I don't think my brand is where it needs to be. You know, how do I get started? You know, all you need to do is be passionate about mentoring or teaching developers. So even if you have, you know, you're on a small team at your company and you're mentoring them, like you have the skill sets to do that, right? Have an interest in media management or anything that scales. Remember that long range of things, anything that in that media management entails, right? Have a love for, experience in, or are curious about developer evangelism. Most people who are Google developer experts or Twilio champions, you know, those people are curious about, or they're on a path to developer evangelism, right? So those are great communicators. These are people who are just passionate about what they do and what they build, and they're ready to share and help build the community, right? Over the age of 18, I think everyone in here is. And we want to see your interest. So we want to see, if we're going to help you build your brand, we want to see that you have been starting to do those things, whether that is through speaking engagements, whether that is through creating blog posts, whether that is, you know, you're organizing meetups, going to hackathons, organizing these things. And yeah, anything that showcases, you know, what it is that you do and the fact that you love to share what you do. A little bit about the perks and benefits. You get a free Cloudinary Plus account, which is a notch up from our free account that we offer all developers. And you get, of course, the exclusive and early access to training and product features, recognition on all of our social outlets. So again, we're about, you know, emphasizing and just highlighting the work that you do as a developer. So we're going to do that at the highest extent. Also, custom media developer expert swag. We're actually working on some new cool swag we got coming on. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to sign up. But it is some really good swag, and it's all free, of course. Mentorship, support, and insight from Cloudinary. This is something that we're really focusing on right now because we just launched in May, and we launched with 13 media developer experts, and really we're taking advantage of the fact that this is something that is new and we don't have many developers right now. So what we're doing is keeping a one-on-one type of relationship with each of the developers, and we're able to really see what it is that they're trying to do in terms of career advancement, in terms of the type of voice that they want to have as a developer, and what kind of communities that they want to continue to grow and add on to. Also, special invitations to events, whether it's external events, conferences. We offer support for if you're organizing a meetup, you need sponsorships or things like that. We support all of those different things. And here is the link to join. You can sign up with this link right here. And we're giving out, if you're at Smashing Conf by any chance, you can come to the Cloudinary booth and you can actually grab one of these fluffy unicorns. So yeah, and that's it. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Yes, a fluffy. Yes. Okay, I think I'm escaping out of there. And I don't know how you get to the next phase.
I think I'm taking over. Give me 1 second whilst I... No worries. Can you record yourself? I can record myself. I will be recording myself. We're just not going to I'm going to come up on screen. Start this recording.
Thank you for recording.
Cool. All right. Thank you for bearing with us whilst we do that little switch over. And hopefully this is all going to work nicely from now on. So cool. As I said earlier, my name's Nash. I am a developer evangelist at Twilio. And I'm going to spend a bit of time this evening talking with you a bit about serverless stuff, a bit about Twilio, a bit about some other things as well, because I have a lot to share. You can follow me or find me anywhere online under the name Phil Nash mainly. So do please go and chase after that. But really, I want to start a little bit with kind of the story of Twilio and serverless. You see, Twilio comes from this world of telephony. Well, not really. Twilio comes from the fact that telephony was incredibly difficult to do as a developer this time 10 years ago. Well, let's say 11 years ago. Jeff Lawson, CEO of Twilio, Twilio is his 4th company he started, and he's told me over time that the first 3, in every single one of them, he found this need for a way to communicate with his customers, any way at all. And he's a developer, so he wanted to build this. And it was just not really applicable. In fact, a lot of people, I think, if we look 10 or 20 years ago, we'd think about communications as hardware. And I don't necessarily mean just the phone that you have to pick up at the end of that, but this kind of hardware, that kind of cabinet of servers in the back room, which is connected to your SIP system of voice. This is why we do serverless, right? We don't want to see this anymore. We don't want to. We basically want to ignore the fact that servers even exist. Telephony was bound by hardware this long ago, and Jeff, along with the co-founders of Twilio, wanted to change that. So that's what we got into. And the premise was, if you could remove the hardware, remove the upfront costs of telephony, and put it in the hands of developers, put it in the hands of people that could write software, then that was going to make things a lot better. And hopefully, we're now 10 and a bit years on from that, and hopefully we agree with that. Because what we turned it into was just APIs. Now, this isn't a particularly good user experience for an API. This is just curl. But with the power of just this one line, and sure, it's on 5 lines, but it's one line, really. You can see the backslashes at the end of the line. With the power of that just one line, you can make a phone call happen from one number to another. And I thought that was pretty exciting when I got to join this company. And a bunch of other people have thought so, I think, along the way. But when we get to talking about serverless is this little bit here. That line in the middle says, hey, when you make this phone call, we're going to hit this URL to find out what to do once those numbers connect. And a lot of developers, want to make an API request, but not necessarily do anything about it afterwards. That should be fire and forget. Let's make things happen. Except a phone call is then a real-time thing you have to deal with. And so when those two calls, when that number connects to the other, Twilio makes a request to that URL. And in this case, it's a demo URL. It just says, hey, thank you for making a call with Twilio, and then hangs up on you, which is not particularly useful. So since we've had an API like this, we've had developers going, hey, how do I do something? How do I not have to host a whole website in order to deal with this? And so, first of all, our community actually stepped up for this. And in 2011, so Twilio only started in 2008. In 2011, a company called Ver released this tool called Twimlbin, which allowed you to host static pieces of Twiml. Twiml is the XML language that allows that Twilio speaks. And Twimlbin would just host. It would also validate and then host that XML. And that was, I thought it was amazing. Like 2011 is 4 years before I started working at Twilio, and to find 3 years, I don't know, 3 years before I started working at Twilio myself, to have a community that was that strong enough to build a product that would allow other people to host their Twiml as part of it was kind of magical. And eventually, we decided to buy up Twimlbin from them because it was so popular. In fact, in the blog post where we announced having kind of purchased it, Twimlbin.com was powering almost 100,000 phone numbers on the Twilio platform, which I think is incredible. And over 10 million requests have been made to just Twimlbin.com. So we brought it up, and we turned it into native Twimlbins. We wanted to make it available within our own admin. We wanted to add some better features to it. We wanted to be able to officially support it, because that was still a community project, and we were not paying for that at all. And so I just want to show you how that works, just briefly. This will start the demos now. I'm going to start this one by buying us a new number to work with this evening. And I'm going to get one here in Canada. In fact, actually, when I searched earlier, Toronto numbers came up. What's the 647? We have 647 though. There we go. I'll get one of those. I'll get a nice local one. Yes, this number does voice, fax, SMS, and media messaging. Particularly excited about fax, personally. I can tell you stories about that another time. Sorry? Oh yeah, done that one before. My favorite thing about the fax API was we launched it in 2017 on April the 1st. It took us months to convince people that it was actually real. It's still there, I promise you. Anyway, now I have this number, and let's move with messaging, because messaging is a little simpler. I can now select, like when a message comes in, we can use a Twimlbin, and I actually can create a Twimlbin right here. I can create one right here to do some stuff with. I can. So Twiml all looks like this. It all starts and ends with a response tag, and inside it you can do stuff. With messages, it's quite simple because you can pretty much only reply to the message or forward a message on. Forwarding a message would be a bit dull, so I'll just reply. And I can say, welcome to Serverless Toronto for some free credit. Let's see if that works. Should do. And the nice thing about taking on Twimlbins like this was we could actually add things to it, because this was just this is just static, except we actually added templates to it as well, template strings. So you can actually start using those template strings inside Twimlbins as well. So in this case, we can say you said, and we can echo the body of your message back out. And so if I create that tool bin right now, that's been created, and if I save the number's been updated. And so that means that if you grab your phone and send a message to this number right now, which I'm going to do as well, just to make sure it's working. And I'll read the number out as well. It's we don't need the +1, of course. 647-697-8261. I'm just going to send myself an emoji. I like doing that. If you send anything to it, send your favorite emoji, and I'll check them out later. I always like to see what people like. Should check if it actually worked then as well, shouldn't I? All right, cool. I got half a message back. Interesting. Oh well, demos, eh? The promo code is serverless Toronto, all one word, not just serve, which is what I just received. Interesting. Still, that is how a tool bin works these days, or should be how a tool bin works these days. You can just create it there whilst editing a phone number and work with it right there and then, which is pretty exciting, I think. We'll come back to that later. Meanwhile, whilst Twilio was being used by a lot of people, Twilio was considering other things, including this little guy. We had a labs department somewhere, and this is Dr. Twilio doing all his important science back in the early 2010s period as well. Because people still didn't want to, just responding with some static TWIML was also not good enough for some people. So in TWIML labs, people came up with Twimlets. Twimlets were just URLs, really. This is it's a PHP application, as it happens, under twimlets.com that allows you to do a bunch of stuff which work with phone numbers. So if you gave this URL, if you gave the top URL to one of your phone numbers, it would forward a call to that number onto the phone number you provided in the URL. The next one would take a voicemail. It would then transcribe that voicemail and email it to you. And the last one would just drop people into a conference call. And there are a bunch of other ones as well, including Echo, which allow you to do any TWIML you wanted to, as long as you could fit it in the URL string. And so this was quite a nice idea. This allowed people to do a bunch of use cases that came up out of phone calls that they didn't, again, want to host servers for. These were more than, particularly things like the voicemail, which would record, transcribe, and email a whole call to somebody. That kind of stuff is not possible with just plain XML. But is that enough? No, obviously. Also, it was never graduated from the labs, and whilst I think Twimlets actually powers quite a lot of people's applications, technically has no support whatsoever. It's terrifying. It works, though, and it's been working solidly for years. But is that enough? No. So around, was it start of 2015? Well, I think it was the end of 2014 that Amazon actually quietly launched AWS Lambda. And so this is where Twilio internally kind of got interested in things like that. And we have a half-yearly hackathon, Hack Week, where we can play and practice with anything that's going to make the company better. I took part in the one at the start of 2015, though I had nothing to do with anything serverless at the time. But there were teams in there looking at serverless and going, how can we use this to better deal with media, or indeed deal with media without having to run the servers the whole time to deal with them, which is part of the hassle, especially in a spiky kind of media like when we have media messaging, and if a whole bunch of new images come through, you have to have the capacity to translate them all into what the phone networks wanted, which is difficult enough. So people started experimenting with this, but this led to that conflation of, we had these kind of tools that exist to help people produce TWIML and drive phone calls, to how can we give them the tools to do that with the freedom and the code that they want to write. And so that led to Twilio Functions. Twilio Functions has been around for a couple of years now in beta, and is our serverless product that allows you to run Node.js applications or Node.js functions in response to an HTTP request. It's a lot simpler than any serverless general serverless platform that's out there. It's a lot simpler than Lambda or Cloud Functions or Azure Functions. But it does allow you to run code in response to an incoming request. And this is kind of what it looks like. And this is kind of the disappointing thing about it in a way, because it is entirely driven through this web portal right now. And I think, so it does allow you to do a number of things, which include install dependencies via NPM, and also host assets, so images and other things like that. But mainly, at the bottom there, as you can see, you can write Node.js and it will call it and return it. And you no longer have to worry about running your servers, or only being able to do things that Twimlets let you do, or only being able to return static TWIL. So it gave you full control. But full control wasn't enough either over the code, because, as I said, that kind of development experience there is writing into a text area on a web page, which admittedly was the first experience I had with AWS Lambda as well. It was sort of disappointing. Or upload a zip file, I think was the alternative, wasn't it? Come on. So it gave us this full control, but also we wanted to build developer tools for this as well. And so my colleague Dominic and latterly myself have started working on tools that are going to make this better for people who want to use things like Twilio Functions. And so just to demonstrate that, I'm going to complete what we were doing with the calls earlier and actually build ourselves a little Twilio Functions application, which is going to run both locally, and then we'll get it running on the server, on Twilio Functions itself. And so what we've done is, first of all, you shouldn't have to build your own project structure. That's totally dull. So right now, if you have npm installed, if you have Node installed and then npm, or an npm init Twilio function and call it something, let's call it serverless TO. That is going to generate a scaffold for a Twilio Functions project for us. It's going to download and install a whole bunch of dependencies. No, not that many dependencies, actually. It's going to use my account credentials, which is kind of useful. It's going to give yourself a git-ignore file. But the dependency that's important to it is a project called Twilio Run. Twilio Run allows us to locally run Twilio Functions. So that's completed, and so I can go into there, and if I run npm start right now, so if that's at the bottom of the screen there, run npm start, I have an example function available. So I can grab that, and it is a very simple example, but it works, and that's the important thing. And so what we can do is open that up in an editor and see what we've got. So what you get is you can see that side. On the side there's an assets directory, which doesn't have anything in right now. That's where you can store images, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, anything like that you might want to use on a web page side of things. And then we got a functions directory and our very simple example function. So as you can see there, this is the exact format that Twilio Functions itself uses. You get a handler function exported, which takes a context, an event, and a callback. The context brings with it any kind of local details, including environment variables that you can set within Twilio Functions. The event is anything about the request itself. So incoming parameters are passed into the event object. And then the callback is what you need to call when you are done. In this particular case, we are returning a voice response from Twil, which is going to say "Hello World," and we saw that over. No, I closed it there. So we're just saying "Hello World" in this case. Let's change that just briefly, because this gives us all the power that we have in Twiml, so we can dial functions, or we can record things. Or we can gather input via voice or keypad, anything like that. I'm just going to play something right now. I'm just going to add that so we can complete this. So I'm going to play this file, which is under fill.twilio/asset/song.mp3. Cool. And I'm going to... I could run that again, but right now... Oh, one thing that's nice that we can look at is we can run npm start. Oh, sorry, let's put that at the top there. npm start, and then if I actually pass the ngrok flag to it, this actually opens up a tunnel using, I don't know if you've heard of ngrok at all before, but it allows you to tunnel through to an application on your local machine. And so right now, anybody else could go and hit that example HTML, that example link, and you'll get that as well. And so I could use that right now. Why not? So if I were to now actually grab just Node.js actually, and then require, let's get Twilio equals, get myself access to the REST API via our Node.js package. And just give that my account SID and auth token so I get access to the API. I can go get the messages we sent into this number earlier, for example. So messages. And then if I go on twilio.messages list, I'm going to list the messages that were sent just to the number I bought. Oops, let's go get that number. Where'd it go? This one. And then I'll use that URL to respond. No spaces though. So I've list the messages there, and then when that comes back, just set messages equals to that. That should go get those messages. We'll see how many there were. Oops. 13 messages. Thank you for getting involved. So I suppose I could take a look at each of those messages and see what we sent in. Nobody was saying anything bad, right? No, we're cool. I don't have any fuzzy unicorns. I am delighted to see that 2 other people chose the 2 beer emojis to send in, because one of them was me. Cool, I have the messages, but it also means, right, I can also get your numbers as well, right? Did I not mention that before? Sorry, because it's the number you sent it from. That makes sense. Like if I texted your phone, you'd have my number. Cool, and that means I can also use those numbers to call you back. So we'll use twilio.calls.create. In this case, we'll create it from the number that we bought earlier, and we'll send it to that number. Oops, to n, and we have to set a URL here, and this is where I can go and this is where I can use this ngrok URL in this particular case. We'll put that there, and so that should. I always do this. There we go. That should dial everybody back. Just you can answer that if you want. There you go. Somebody's ringing. Mine will go in a minute, I think. Or maybe not. Who knows? It works? That's good to know. All right, cool. Oh, now I'm getting the call. Good stuff. Are you? Yeah, exactly. It's my first time in Toronto, and so I thought I had to rickroll somebody. But the good news is that is running as if it's a Twilio function, but locally. And if I wanted to move that and make it a Twilio function, they're still coming in. It's good to see. If I wanted to move that and make that a Twilio function, all I'd have to do is take this, copy it. Oh, maybe I sent the message 3 times. It's calling me again. All I'd have to do is take it, copy it, and put it in a function here. Oops, there we go. So let's create that just quickly and put that there and say it's /role. And we've updated the function, and it's probably deployed. Right. The thing is, Twilio Functions actually does a couple of nicer extra things for you, such as protecting the function. So when Twilio makes a request as a webhook, it actually signs that request, and you can check the validity of that signature, which Twilio Functions do off the bat. If I uncheck that, it means I can go see. And that's the Twiml you're playing now being served up from Twilio. Cool. So that works. But that's just the story so far. And hopefully, if you're anything like me, you're a little bit sad that, yes, there is a copy and a paste involved. So let's change tack, because I've got some more on that for later. But let's have a look at what else we can do. We had some people who are dealing with conversational UIs and other things like that, which is kind of exciting. And so I just want to give you a little bit of an introduction to Twilio's Autopilot, which is what we are building for conversational UI, to see how or if this will be interesting to you. And of course, it does a whole lot of this stuff in the back end of Twilio and not your own. So that's kind of exciting, I hope, as well. The Twilio Autopilot is a way to build, train, and deploy artificially intelligent bots, IVRs, and Alexa apps. And in fact, actually, this was just a quote taken from the page on twilio.com/autopilot. And so it forgets things, like it also does Google Home apps as well now, using natural language understanding and machine learning frameworks with Twilio Autopilot. So that's what you can do. What it really means is, because that's just the marketing fluff, really, you can build and train just one bot with Twilio and then deploy it across all of the channels that Twilio supports, or Twilio Autopilot supports. And when I wrote this, obviously I didn't mean you can only build one bot. You can build as many bots as you like. It's entirely up to you. But you can build, if you make one bot, it can support all the channels. And currently those channels are programmable voice, so phone calls, messaging, SMS, programmable chat, that's our chat SDK, Alexa, Google Assistant, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Slack. And there's more to come. This is an ever-expanding list as we continue to work with Autopilot. But I think the powerful thing here is that Autopilot allows you to work across both voice and text messaging in order to write your bot responses. There's a couple of concepts to cover for what it actually looks like inside when you're trying to build a bot of your own. So you start with tasks. Tasks are a thing the bot does. It's a terrible explanation, really, isn't it? But when you say or when you send something to a bot, you want it to be able to trigger to do some actions, and that is what a task is in terms of Autopilot. Samples are the kind of phrases that you give to Autopilot in order to tell it what kind of things will trigger which tasks. So you can train it with a whole bunch of different samples, and this is where the kind of machine learning under the hood gets going. As you give it more samples, it works out all the things in between. Then there are fields. We have custom fields and pre-trained fields. These fields are the kind of these are the variables that you want the bot to hear. So if you are asking the bot for, you'd like to order a cup of coffee, a field might be what type of coffee that is, a latte or a flat white or a cappuccino. And then there are models. Models are the conglomeration of all of the samples, the fields, and the tasks that you have set up for the bot. You build that into one model, which can then get deployed and will respond happily to incoming messages via voice or via text. But that's just talking about, I really dislike talking about things, as you might have worked out by now, and I much prefer just trying to build things. So let's see if we can turn that number we bought earlier into a bot. I'm just going to go to Autopilot, and hello, there we go. I'm going to create the serverless Toronto bot. Although I am going to probably go and do a coffee ordering system, because there's a little bit to all of this. So this is the bot. You can actually give it a call straight away. It's not going to do anything except say hello, actually. Hold on. Let's not call it. It's not plugged into anything. But you can call it to test it straight away, which is quite cool. Then we can go to tasks. We have one task already set up in our bot, which is to say hello, which is cool. And so if you go and look at that, this is what Autopilot likes to talk about with bots. With its responses. So we've kind of left XML and Twiml a little bit behind right now, and now we're dealing with JSON for this kind of stuff. And what you respond to whenever a bot has a task, you can respond to it with these actions. And the actions include say, which is just to say something. You can remember things, which puts things into the bot's memory. You can collect things, which actually sets it up to ask a bunch of questions. You just tell it to listen, which makes it do the next thing. And redirect, you can send it off to a URL to get more information. And finally, I think possibly the most important one is handoff. So if you're building a bot that is of importance, but there are things you know it's not going to be able to answer, and you want somebody else to be able to answer that, you can hand it off to a human. So sending a voice call or a text message or a chat onto another person. So what we are going to do with this is just change this say to say, hello, welcome to the coffee bot. What would you like to order? So I save that. That's just saving that original hello task, and so everything's going to fall through to that task. And then I'm going to create another task for it. Boom, and this will be make order. So we make a make order task, and we can program that. And I'm actually going to use redirect for this one, and send it down to ngrok. Oops. Let's see if I can run it on my own ngrok. No, hold on. Let's not do that. Let's use the existing one. No, we'll come back to that in a bit, actually. Cancel that. I will make that redirect in a bit. But in the meantime, what we need to do is train this one. And to do so, I'm going to add some fields for it. So the fields are the information we want to get out of this bot. So for example, a quantity. How many coffees would you like to be ordering? And we have a bunch of like pre-trained data types for this kind of stuff, which is really useful, particularly for numbers, which we have. It has even pretty smart models such as first name, which is remarkably hard to trick. But I managed to twice last week with people with real names that it didn't recognize. But that is also the problem with machine learning. We're going to get to quantity, but I'm going to need a custom field for this as well, because Twilio doesn't hold a list of coffees inside it as a trained type. So I'm going to do the natural language router and create a field type, which I will call coffee. And what we can then do is go into that and add some values. And this is where we can say, hey, it's a latte or a flat white or a cappuccino. This is where we work out if I can spell anything, really. Let's limit it at 4 just to make sure. No, Americano. Okay, 5 different coffees. I'm going to submit that. And those are all the values there. And what we can actually do with these is add, we can add synonyms to them as well. So for people that can't spell espresso, we can add that, and it's going to learn from that as well. So I'm going to go back to the task now, and I can now add this custom field type to our tasks. Train fields. Got the fields, we've got quantity, and we're going to add the other one, which we'll call type. And right at the bottom of the list, there's our new coffee type. And so now if I go to the samples, I can add in samples like I would like quantity of type, please. Bots can be friendly too. Alternatively, we can just go quantity type. Oops. And please can I have. The more of these samples that you can provide to Autopilot, the better it's going to be. The better it's going to be at working these things out. So I'm going to close that right now. And finally, I'm going to add something to respond to it. So let's just create ourselves another function in this program here, coffee.js. I'm going to grab that. We're not going to respond with twiml this time, though. We need to make up our actions. And with that, I can actually get the... so this is an incoming webhook again, coming from Autopilot this time. And so I can say, I can actually get out of the event the value coffee nope, it's field coffee value. And so whatever it's field type, obviously, the type of the thing. That's the type, and we'll see the same. For our quantity. And now we can respond with our own set of actions. So actions equals actions, and we'll just say back to this, thank you. You ordered quantity of type. And I'm not going to try and pluralize the type of coffee in this case. I'm not got enough time to mess about with things like that. And then in the callback, I can just pass this object actions. And so within Twilio functions, it's actually really useful. If you send back a TWIML object, it will turn it into XML, and it will set that with a content type of XML. If you give it a JavaScript object, it will set that. It will turn it into JSON, and it will set the content type to application JSON. So that's quite simple and straightforward, hopefully. Cool. So let me just restart that, which will give me a new ngrok URL, which is why I was not going to do that earlier. This time it's showing me I have two functions available, coffee and example. So we're going to use program. We're going to use the coffee one, of course. Redirect there to this URL on ngrok. Save that. And train the bot. I haven't actually trained the model yet. So what it's going to say is at the top there, you've made changes that need a new model build. I'm going to build it's actually my first model. So I'm going to call it 0.0.1. You can call it whatever you like, but I like to feel like the first of everything I do is 0.0.1. It's not too worrying then. And then we can go to the channels. And this is where we can set it up with our number or with whatever channel we have. Like I said, these are the ones available. Line is coming soon, apparently. I'm going to set up with messaging because we got that number earlier. And all I need to do is copy that URL, take it over here to the number, and change that from TwimlBin into webhook. And that's it. Save that. So what you should be able to do now is text that number again if you texted it and just say hello, and it should get back to you to say, hey, what coffee would you like? Welcome to the coffee bot. What would you like to order? Yeah, cool. I would like 15 flat whites. Because that's actually a regular order in Melbourne. It's totally normal to order that many. And we'll see that I have an error. Hey, it's good to see the debugger is on my side. Cool, I got 404s to post coffee, which seems unlikely. Did I forget to return something? Stop sending messages to it. It's not working. I'm pretty sure it's there. I can see it there. Did I save this? I saved this. It's called coffee.js. It's got exports.handler. I copied that from there. Well, exciting. There was all that talk about demo gods earlier. No, of course. So localhost 3000, which is where it's running, I think. /coffee. Can't find it. Well, good news. Good news to me. Give this one more little look. It says it should be there. It's just totally not there. Cover.js. Well, for something that was working earlier, that's really kind of disappointing. Well, moving on. But hold on. What else could I do to this? I want to make it work, so instead I will get a different application up. This is inside serverless TO. That says coffee. That's in the functions directory. Good thing is I'm mentally putting away a bug report for this. If the example is still there, that's frustrating. So in that case, what I should be able to do is just put that there, and the example, oops, not that one, is now it's really got broken. Cool. All right. I don't know what I've done. Oh, I did quantity of. Is that why? Yeah, it is. It's because I. It's not. It's because I was trying to make that be type when really it should have been coffee. Cool. So it's just me. It's nothing to do with the rest of the thing. Well, it really shouldn't just fail like that. So let's start that back up with ngrok. It's going to work this time. Cool. I just need to take the URL, put that new URL back into autopilot, retrain it. Come on, autopilot, where have you gone? There we go. Go back to the task. And back to the program for this, and just change that to that, save that. That is going to tell me to rebuild the model. See, nothing works in 0.0.1. That's why we call it 0.0.1. So we've built the model. So if you say hello again, this time, I'm going to say just one espresso, because that's clearly what I actually need. And what we don't want to see is the little bug here at the top here flash up. What we're hopefully going to see is successful responses to this. And I got one. All right, cool. Woo! Okay. So, thank you for making me make it work, because it's always concerning. It's concerning when really the issue is I don't know how to write JavaScript and not anything else. Or in fact, I just don't even know how to name things. But that's where you need to do some things. And obviously at this point, this is where, because we're actually accessing our own code, our own server, or serverless function, we can start doing other stuff like save this into a database and make the thing come up later. Cool, so that's working. And that is kind of what Twilio's autopilot looks like right now. You can give it more tasks, more samples, and give it a lot more branches to work with, but that's kind of the very basics then. And so just finally to finish, we've seen kind of this serverless tooling working. We've seen copy and pasting into Twilio functions in the browser, and we've seen how autopilot fits in with it all. Now, this is the bit that is not yet announced. So we can't put this recording out or tweet about this or share this outside of this room if that's okay, because we are making Twilio functions better and be more like a reasonable platform that you'd want to use as a developer. I believe that's all the demos, that's the things I've got for you so far this evening. That is where Twilio's been with serverless. We come from the community providing serverless TWIML for us, all the way up to the current iteration, which is running Node in the Twilio stack for you, alongside any npm dependencies, any environment variables, any assets. And the future, coming real soon, is being able to deploy, move to different environments, and run code like you would expect to be able to run an entire serverless platform. That's the stuff I'd like to show you this evening. Thank you very much, and we'll take some questions as well. But first of all, thank you.
Thank you so much for visiting us. Any questions? Who's first one?
Great presentation.
This way, so the light's not on my face. Hello.
Yeah. Hello. Lots of great content. So just wondering, like right now, it only supports Node.js.
It does.
JavaScript, probably.
Yes.
So any plans, ETA roadmap about supporting other languages? First question. Yes. If I can ask.
There are no plans that I'm aware of on the roadmap for other languages. I would be surprised if that was the case in the long term, but for right now, it's been very focused on Node in order to just kind of get the platform in a good shape to start with before we start exploring other things. And so, in fact, when we first launched, there was no access to NPM modules, or there were a few built-in ones, and we had to add that kind of side of it. Next, we've gone for this this kind of production level version of it. The tooling we've now written works in JavaScript and JavaScript alone, and so right now it's very focused on that. Like I say, I've got nothing. There's nothing official I can say. I would be surprised if it was the long term like this, but for now, it's going to be JavaScript.
If I may ask one more, so the like you mentioned, the serverless platform has been out for a couple of years, and 2 days ago I just checked, it's still in beta version, I believe. So, and in order to convince other key stakeholders to actually, buy into the platform, it got to be out of beta.
Agreed.
So any insights into that particular?
So in this case, I'm able to show you this API as long as we don't talk about it elsewhere. All the other thing I can say is that coming up in about a month and a half, we have Signal Conference, which is Twilio's user and developer conference, and that tends to include a bunch of announcements. I can't. I actually have no idea whether functions out of beta is part of that. You probably won't be surprised to see the API there, but it has been running for 2 years fairly solidly, which is it's kind of good. You're right, like coming out of beta is important, and Twilio insists on an operational maturity model around any of the products that make it to general availability. Those metrics include, that model includes everything from fully documented to the stability that we expect out of our products and support from our support teams. I do not know when this is going to come out of beta, but because we are seeing these movements in the API and things like that, I can only imagine it's going to be soonish.
Awesome, thanks.
Next question.
Questions. Keep it
It's on.
close. Toll-free numbers, do you support those?
We do in multiple countries. Yes. Which ones are you looking for?
Canada, obviously.
Yes, I believe so.
And the U.S., obviously.
We definitely do in the US. As I say, it's my first time in Canada. I've been here for approximately 24 hours now. So
Good stuff.
I've not had to look up too much in that beforehand. My account still thinks I'm from the UK, which is cool. Let me just have a quick search. I would like to tell you that we have local numbers, and there is advanced search, in which I can look up for toll-free. Since it's given me the checkbox, it's actually a pretty good sign. There we go. Toll-free Canadian numbers.
Great, thank you.
No worries. They work the same as you'd expect. Just these toll-free ones do not have media messaging capabilities. That's the only thing you get to miss there, I'm afraid.
Who's next? Other questions? Don't be shy. This is a rare opportunity to ask in person. Everything's online.
Of course, if you are shy with a microphone, we can all hang out and chat after I put the mic down.
Yeah, we're going to continue. So basically, like, even if you don't have questions now, like that are being recorded, you can ask afterwards. And we have to be out of here by 8:30, so we still have time. So. Okay.
Sorry, I was just going to say, can you tell us anything about the pricing model? Like, are we charged per invocation of the functions, or is it kind of just a flat monthly hosting, like a hybrid function, or how does it work?
Functions are charged per invocation with 10,000 free invocations a month. Yes. How much per invocation is possibly something you might ask. Functions. It is
there a component for like storage and
that
assets?
much. Yep. Not storage, but per request again. and then again after 10,000. So it's all, yeah, a tenth of a cent per invocation after 10,000.
$1 a month, I think.
The numbers are $1 per month. Toll-free one's $2 a month. That changes around the world, but it's one and two here.
Phil, you were typing some credit for us here. Like, was it serious or?
Yes, absolutely. If you do just use the promo code, oops, I had that as a serverless Toronto. That will gain you $30 of free credit to play around with. Twilio is free to sign up with and try anyway, but it comes with some limitations on the accounts when they're free accounts. If you go through to upgrade your account to a paid account, but put in this promo code, you'll get some real money on top of that account.
Does it apply to regular users of Twilio with phone numbers or just functions?
This will be for anybody upgrading an account from nothing.
Much appreciated.
Yes.
Saved me 1 month. Yeah. Wow. That's my
An
monthly
existing, not yet upgraded account.
cost. Thank you.
If you're already paying us money,
Now you're spoiling us.
We
How
tend
about
not to
Signal
throw too much
Conference? Do you
more
have
at
any discounts for that? How about Signal Conference? Any discounts for that?
for Signal,
Yeah.
yes. If I believe if Signal's in San Francisco, it's August 6th and 7th, and it's almost embarrassing to use this code, but if you use the code marketing10, because I am part of the marketing department, that will get you 10% off of a Signal ticket. That is okay. Yeah. Signal's gonna be great. It's we're August 6th and 7th. There is a day before Signal on the 5th, in which we have a full day of extra talks and workshop. Workshop. We have a workshop we call Superclass, which actually is it's a hands-on throw yourself in self-paced kind of coding challenges. It uses my favorite part of the Twilio platform, Twilio Quest. Which actually, if I just do that, Twilio Quest is a self-guided, self-guided workshop. But at Superclass, at Signal, you'll have about 100 Twilions there to answer your questions on anything you might want to do with Twilio as well as 2 tracks of talks, giving introductory talks on some of the products. And I believe this year we also have some panels with the people who build and create the products as well. So I'll be hosting a panel on the video products and real-time data stuff, which should be fun.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
So there are other chatbot vendors like Alexa, Google. Like, can you give the context, like how Twilio stacks up with Autopilot? With that?
So it's kind of in the bot market, we have, the understanding side of things, such as Lex from AWS. And then we have other kind of more full stack things like Dialogflow, which is Google's formerly API.ai, and now Dialogflow, which does understanding and intent recognition and return to the input. And so Dialogflow, for example, can be set up to work happily with Twilio SMS, for example. What we're trying to do with Autopilot is both make a tool that is going to learn the way you expect it to, providing those fields and the answers that come with that, but also that can talk across as many platforms as possible. I think the thing that things like Lex and Dialogflow miss out of the box is being able to speak to them over the phone. They can deal with text and they can deal with that, and even if they don't have a way to hook up the specific input, such as text messaging or a chat channel to it, that you can still make API requests to them, and that's also true of Autopilot. But if you wanted to use Dialogflow in a voice flow, you're going to have to transcribe that text yourself. You're going to have to send that to the API. You're going to have to bring that back and then send that back into the flow. I think that's the same for Lex, and any of those other ones. So Autopilot's very much there to make integrating those channels as simple as possible, regardless of what and how the channel is interacted with.
Yeah, part of this chatbot, you guys built any semantic models on the industry specific?
What do you mean by semantic models exactly?
In
Sorry.
the sense, like whatever the chatbots you have created, you're building the models and that. So you have anything ready-made models for us to test based on any of the industry, like the call center or anything like that?
Ah, that's a great question. I don't think we have any to test out the box. We have what we provide is tutorials to get you to that first model yourself. But nothing out of the box. We then have those fields that are pre-trained as well, but there's not like a, I don't think there's a...
Because that builds on that, like if you have any algorithms built on top of that, how to process the data, how to build the intelligence.
So yeah, when we create an assistant, we just get straight into here. So no, there isn't any like pre-done ones, but again, Autopilot itself is still is also beta.
It's a vanilla bot. Yeah.
It's a vanilla bot, yeah. But yeah, it is ready to become whatever bot you want it to be.
Yeah,
at that
Thank you.
I mean, we've built things with it. We've built purchase flows and things like that with it. I mean, for me, it's actually been oddly straightforward, I think, to get up and running and building with. And so I deployed most of my things are plays and tests and things like that. But just a couple of weeks ago, I deployed a full kind of custom T-shirt ordering bot with it. And this is the thing I said, I've only broken the first name model twice. And this is because I deployed this in Singapore, which was it's a pretty wide kind of array of first names. I think we discovered in the system there, and only 2 of them did not actually hit the pre-trained first name model, which was trained by a team here in the US. So I was almost surprised it did that well. But other than that, like the bot had 0 problems with it whatsoever. All the problems with the other side, where I'd built an interface for dealing with the incoming orders, and apparently my interface work could do with some more work. But yeah, the bot kind of just did its job. So I'd recommend just have a go with it and see what you can get. There are, like I said, Twilio Quest, which is gives you missions to complete to build things, and has quite a good autopilot mission, which is the one I used to initially learn how to work with it. I like we have our documentation, but if I can play a game and learn at the same time, that's where I go. So Twilio Quest was the way I got through that.
Phil.
Yo.
I heard that there is a way to capture failed utterances and then enter them later in the system.
That is
like
true.
something
There absolutely is.
So maybe that's the way, or if you can kind of capture all consultant recordings, you would be able to enter that as input to train.
So you can turn on logging the things, and we can see what it's got here, which is quite cool. We can see that this is the whole log. So you can turn this off once you're actually absolutely happy with your bot, or if you have data privacy kind of issues. But whilst training it, you can then review these things. And in this particular case, we said, I want 5 Americanos, and it didn't capture it, which is a shame, because this would have been... it is make or... Oh, hold on, we can create the field. So in this case, I can take this as a coffee, and it's Americanos, which is a synonym of Americano, which has gone away. Hey. There we go. So we can now, actually train the bot to now recognize that should have said 5 Americanos. It would have got the quantity, but we can now train that back to it. So yes, we can help get this, improve the bots as it learns, or help it learn.
Anybody else?
17 double was unlikely.
also just wondering about the latency on the performance of the serverless, like, or the bot side. I
Yeah.
understand, like, for a text message, the latency probably doesn't matter that much, but still you need to within a certain range. Like, how do you keep the keep your functions warm? How does I guess a Twilio platform do that?
How do we keep those functions warm, did you say?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. You're right. SMS is not super important. You're more likely to get hit by the latency of the network itself than you are from hitting that thing. Whereas, on the other hand, if you're on a voice call, you don't want people waiting to receive the next input, the next instruction. What we say with this, I think, is since Twilio functions themselves run within the same data centers as the rest of the Twilio platform, you actually have minimal latency between like the server that's dealing with the voice call and where it's making this webhook request to. I couldn't tell you, as I'm not a member of the serverless team, exactly how things are kept warm over that time. But as far as I'm aware, no one's having problems with the latency on those things. Yeah, I genuinely don't know that, though, if there is that. But that it exists in the same network, in the same data center, in the same AWS center as it happens. Yeah. Anything specific about that? I mean, so Twilio spent a lot of time adhering to GDPR last year. Everything in our documentation lists whether a field is considered PII or not, and how long it lasts if it is, based on those things. You're also able to do things like set up automatic message redaction, number redaction, and other such things. We're very keen on protecting people's privacy when required to. Twilio is not currently is not HIPAA compliant, but the use cases are dependent on various things like that. So, like, you shouldn't be sending health data across text message anyway. It's a terrible platform for that. Whereas if you wanted to use video chat for kind of consultants, for a medical consultancy, for example, you could do that because peer-to-peer video chat is end-to-end encrypted between the two parties. So there's it very much depends on what you need to do with that. But yeah, we do our absolute best to protect privacy, data, and everything, and give you the tools with which to do that as well. Like I said, that's why it's important that it's in the documentation.
Phil, before we started, like I'm sucker for poly voices, few of those. You mentioned integration with voices from Poly, Partable.
Yes.
So how does that work? How do we switch up things?
I believe. So one thing I didn't mention about Autopilot, just to start with, is that you can kind of give it a style sheet. We treat it like a web application. And as you can see, the voice here is set with a say voice of Polly Matthew. You can actually turn that back to our previous voice was Alice before we introduced Polly to the system. But for Autopilot, you set it there. For other voice calls, you can either set it on the TWIML itself. So if you're writing a response, with a say, you can set the voice there to be, again, in that case, Polly Matthew.
Amazon's.
Yep. Yeah, that's just out the box these days. I mean, previously you could have sent off to the API, turned it into an MP3 and played it down the phone, but now you can just do that.
Yeah, I was actually going to wait till afterwards to ask this question. It's actually directly related to that, because I'm actually sort of making the call to the Amazon SDK, uploading it to S3, and then having it play from there. So yeah, do you have an example where you're using the JS SDK, where you're setting the poly?
Inside the JS SDK, as in with TWIML from JavaScript?
Yeah, where you're sort of
Where I did
requiring
that.
Twilio, and then you're pulling in the voice response. The voice response yeah, like, so yeah, you're doing like tool play. Yeah.
Again, you
And
would
then you're calling
say
and then how would you pass? So you just voice poly.
the the admin has oops. The admin itself has a testing section for all the voices where you can find all their names to use as well. But
I was playing with it directly on Amazon's console.
yes.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. No, we have one within our own console as well, and you just have to set the voice on the twin wheel like that. You can also set a default voice, which you can choose inside the console as well.
Second related question to this. One of the issues what I was trying to do, I was trying to sort of render the SSML first, like render the voice and then sort of cache it. My question is, if you're calling it like this, how often is that cached, or how basically, because obviously each time you sort of call Polygon, you charge. So
Yes.
how often is that happening? Like, is it per vacation? Like, is there any caching at all?
I can't recall if there is a. I can't recall what the fee for using Poly via Twiml like this is. That's where I start Googling things. No, we should probably follow up afterwards on that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know on that right now.
We'll talk afterwards. I'm actually building an IVR right now.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, let's talk afterwards about that because yeah, I don't know.
Guys. More questions, or are we going to start the party? And then you can ask it official without recording. Okay, one more.
Down the front. Here we go.
Example successful business implementations. Let's say project that money-making projects on video platform.
Examples of successful money-making projects. I was going to say to define money-making. I mean, yes, Airbnb does use Twilio. This is particularly one of my favorite use cases of Twilio is where you have a kind of marketplace existence and putting people in contact with each other without giving away their data, their phone numbers, for example, works to both keep things in the platform, so that keep things inside your business, so you can control the conversation between people, but also keep their privacy as well. So Airbnb, if you text a host, that's not their number. They don't get yours. Same for Uber and Lyft. Receiving a call from an Uber driver or a Lyft driver has tended to come through a Twilio number. Not necessarily all of them right now, but that's the case. That's why I wondered about money making. I suppose Uber makes money, but it doesn't make profits, so that's fine. I'm sure they will do one day. On the other hand, there are other things like ING Bank, for example, is building their entire worldwide support contact center using various Twilio things. Locally, Shopify, at the end of last year, launched their support site based on Flex, which is Twilio's contact center as a service. Not Twilio. Lyft also did the same.
What is that about?
So Flex is a contact center. It's a fully customizable, fully programmable, as it says there on the page, contact center. It's effectively built on everything else we've built over all of this time, getting to now. Again, going to the idea that we don't ever want to deal with PBXs in the back office anywhere, anytime. But also, if you build a contact center on a whole kind of old physical system like that, you could do whatever you wanted with it, as long as you had enough time and money and consultants. On the other hand, SaaS offerings allow you to build a contact center where you can't change anything unless they add it to their platform at some point. And we wanted to kind of go down the middle of this somehow and have a SaaS-like offering, which allowed you to press a button and have a contact center ready, but then build it the way you wanted it to be. So this entire front end that you can see here is built in React, and you can add plugins to that to update and change the interface however you'd like to, adding in whatever kind of features and functionality you want. On the back end, it's powered by things like Studio, which is our drag and drop flow, Task Router, which is the way to direct calls and messages to agents, and has a whole bunch of other stuff to it. But effectively, right, it is a list of it's the UI, which is React, routing, which you can change in Task Router, workflows, which is that visual kind of building of it, and then the channels at the bottom, which is everything that the Twilio super network kind of makes available to you.
And for the lazy ones of us, like I saw WhatsApp, lots of writing that you're doing it. Not too many chatbot vendors support that channel. So is it SMS, like texting? Is it talking or video? Like, what about
on WhatsApp?
Yeah, WhatsApp.
It's currently via the text messaging side of it. WhatsApp is kind of difficult as they remain controlling of the rollout of the API. And so with WhatsApp, you can trial it using Twilio, and we have a sandbox of a few WhatsApp numbers that are available for you to play with. But WhatsApp, if you want to then go to production, you have to kind of petition them to help upgrade a Twilio number into a real WhatsApp business number before they'll let you use the platform for real. When I say text messaging, that also includes media that you can send over WhatsApp. So images, video, and audio can also be sent via the WhatsApp API.
Wow. From nothing, so many questions. One more. Okay, so okay, then we're going to
Keep
party.
going.
You guys are part of a bandwidth alliance. So is there any charges of the data transfers across the networks? So there is something called as a bandwidth alliance.
Who is that? That's not something I know about.
It's a cloud to cloud. Like if you're hosting the service on a multi-cloud environment, and then there is the main charge is called as egress charge or the bandwidth charge. Okay, when you're hosting across the multi-cloud environment. So
Right.
what I'm asking is whether I guess you in the background you may be taking care of this, but the customers may not face any charges, I guess, in this case. So whatever the flat charge you charge, that's the charge only, right? You don't have any other charges.
Absolutely. All the charges are kind of upfront in that respect. Most of Twilio is all on this kind of usage-based policy anyway. So that's kind of how you'll see it. Like every time you send a message, it's going to cost an amount. Every time you make an invocation to a function, it's going to cost that 1/10 of a cent. And that's kind of it. That's as transparent as we can be about it, I think.
True. Thank you.
I don't know what I had not heard about the Bandwidth Alliance before, but it sounds useful.
Okay, so we are closing. Last question. 1, 2, 3, sold.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for listening.